Well, finished, and I'm going to discuss the Civil War, or what do you call this? The Civil War A Narrative, Volume 3, Red River to Appomattox by Shelby Foote. So I've already talked about Volume 1 and 2, and I finally finished this, and yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about it because I've already praised the first two volumes. So, I mean, I would praise this one as well. I think that this is like probably one of the best pieces on the Civil War that I've ever read. And I would highly recommend reading it. It covers both the West and the East. You know, sometimes the Eastern theater of the war gets all the attention, but Shelby Foote managed to cover the Western theater as well. So this is going to pick up really early in 1864 with Grant. You know, after Chattanooga, Grant assumes command of basically all of the Army of the Potomac. Meade's still in charge, but Grant really has authority over him. So, I mean, Meade's not detached, you know. And then the Red River Campaign, which was a fiasco for the North. That thing was a catastrophe. Then from the Red River, we have the book is going to switch over to the East to Grant taking the fight to Lee and getting thrashed pretty heavily in the wilderness. But unlike the other times before, when the Union would turn back, this time they're going to keep pressing on. And it was pretty brutal, you know, this war of attrition here in 1864. Lee is still, you know, giving the North heavy losses. You're looking at the battles of the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, because Lee kind of knows where Grant's going to go and beats him there. So they get entrenched and they inflict heavy casualties on the Union there. And then Cold Harbor was an absolute debacle. You know, Grant's performance as a general at that was atrocious. It was basically Vicksburg, but on a larger scale, and it was just brutal. You know, it was just bad. And then the siege of Petersburg with the Battle of the Crater. Essentially over the course of, 40 days or so, right? Grant ended up losing 60,000 troops, whether, you know, killed, wounded, or captured. Total losses were 60,000. That's a lot. Now, Lee lost 30,000 over that same amount, and it really affected the Confederacy because they could not replace those troops. They just couldn't bring up more guys to fill those losses. But by June and July, August of 1864, it wasn't looking good for Lincoln, the re-election campaign. He didn't think he was going to get re-elected, but Grant, it wasn't Grant, it was Sherman. Sherman took Atlanta on September 1st or 2nd? It was right at the beginning of September. Atlanta falls. And then that's it. Like, Lincoln's basically a shoo-in for re-election. But that was because when Sherman comes down, and Joseph E. Johnston is opposing him, he keeps falling back and falling back and falling back. And it was frustrating Sherman because he wanted to draw him out and just destroy his army. But Jefferson Davis became dissatisfied with Johnston's, tactics and replaced him with General Hood. So John Bell Hood's performance was atrocious. Um, he lost Atlanta, and then instead of opposing Sherman's advance down into the South, he goes up into Tennessee and pulls a full frontal attack. And I think the Battle of Franklin and gets decimated. Then he's just like, yeah, forget it. We'll just go up to Nashville. And he gets decimated there again. And it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like John Bell Hood, he left out of Atlanta with 60,000 troops. And after Nashville, he had 15,000 left. I mean, it just completely obliterated his own army because he didn't have the tactical wherewithal to be an army, general of an army. At a brigade and a division level, he was fine, but even Lee was like, I really don't think Hood's the guy for this. So it was just devastating. And then, of course, with him up there in Tennessee, then Sherman just marches clear on through the South from Atlanta and just wreaks havoc. And then Lee is caught in a problem. He's entrenched at Petersburg, and it's kind of a stalemate there, but Grant is stretching out his line, by extending his army. And Lee's army cannot, they can't contend because their line is stretched too thin, and there's really nothing he can do. He's got Sherman coming up now from the south, and he's in a predicament. So obviously we know what happens. The war comes to an end at Appomattox Courthouse. But this was a great read, great piece of work by the great novelist and historian Shelby Foote, and I highly recommend it. It took me a long time to read this. I looked at when I got this. I purchased this set in February of 2021, and I just finished it literally 40 minutes ago today. So, and it wasn't because it was badly written or because I was disinterested in it or anything. I mean, give me a break. It took the guy 20 years to write these 3 volumes. So if it took me almost 2 years to read them, I think reading them slowly, as I did though, I retained a lot more of it that way. But I read other Civil War books in between because I'd find things in here that I was interested in, and then I go, I want to go read a book about that. And so that's kind of part of the reason why it took me so long to read through this. And but when I picked it up and read it, I actually read it. Like I read quite a bit of it. But I feel a sense of accomplishment in knocking this out. So Shelby Foote's 3-volume set, highly recommend. I'm going to end it there. This is a treasure. This is a great set, and I don't have a whole lot to say. I was thinking about reading excerpts from it and everything, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to give this 5 stars. 5 stars for all 3. Don't let the naysayers turn you off from reading this. I'm sick of people calling Shelby Foote a lost causer. That is a bunch of nonsense. This is a fine set of books, and don't be afraid to read it. Read it. All right? It's ridiculous. Sick of people trashing this man. All right, anyways, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.